Relaxation. You. And to take a moment to tune in, notice your body, notice the shape, structure, notice your breathing, where the breathing's happening, and see if you can allow more space to all of that, more physical space for your shape, more physical space for your breath to move in. Letting the breath settle more and more with each breath. Each time, a little more weight underside with the breath, a little bit more release, a little softer breath each time. Can you let the shoulder plane sit right on top of the rib cage, releasing the abdomen, letting the arms have weight underside, the hands resting heavy and relaxed in the lap, the back crown of the head pointed directly to the ceiling. See if you can allow more weight to settle underside with each out breath, or simply just the release of some level of tension with each exhale. And as you release tension or weight, there's no commensurate dropping or drooping of the posture or skeletal structure. In fact, eventually you'll connect the two so that each release not only doesn't collapse, but allows more spacious structure. Each release of tension or weight actually opens and makes your skeletal structure even more spacious. So see if you can connect those two together. Releasing on the out breath allows a clarifying and opening of the body shape structure. One simple way of putting that, in a sense, it might be helpful. Each time you exhale, your weight gets closer to the floor. Same time, the back crown of the head gets closer to the ceiling. Not the crown of the head, because that tends to lift the chin. So it's a little bit more towards the back. Top of the head, but towards the back. And that has a little bit of a down dropping of the chin or in of the chin. And that's make the back of the neck straight. Might feel like the chin drops down, comes in a little bit. It actually makes the jaw level even and parallel to the ground. Most people tend to go the opposite way. And so that's why down brings us to parallel, but it might feel like it's actually dropped. We're just getting to a good place, good plane for the jawline. Each out breath, the weight gets closer to the ground, or more weight settles to the ground. Same time with that out breath, the back crown of the head gets a little closer to the ceiling. Work on those two dynamics at the same time with each out breath. Keeping that quality as we slowly come standing. The weight continues to drop, drop, drop. The crown continues to point directly to the ceiling. Now just take a moment to recaptivate that, recapture it. In case we lost some of that. Just in standing, feet approximately shoulder width, close to parallel. Take the same thing into standing. You can have your hands wherever they're comfortable, but that same dynamic, using the out breath as a helpful trigger. So especially on the out breath, allow more weight to fall Allow more weight underside. Weight gets more and more to the floor. And at the same time, with each out breath, back crown of the head is more accurately pointing towards the ceiling, more flush to the ceiling. And everything else in between disappears. Okay, and as we go into some movement, keep the same quality, those two different directions going on. Releasing on each out breath. Notice when you lose something. Turn on the balls of the feet to bring the heels a little closer. Bend those knees a bit more. Some nice gentle hip circles, starting slow and small. Again, nice release breathing and belly. Really want those knees bent. Notice what it's doing for a little bit of a massage in the internal organs here, and what it's doing with the ball joints and the deep, heavy tissues in the hips, literally massaging those tissues from the inside out with the bones. Nice, good breathing. And a little bigger if it feels okay. So notice people are going to tend to be tight here, kind of cramped here. And that's not good, especially when you're moving your hips around. So elongate that area, lengthen it, drop the tailbone. And come to center, send the mind the other way. Let that sweep up the body into circles. And keep that going, except translocate it to the knees instead of the hips. And also feel how that can nicely massage feet, especially if you're able to relax, let the feet go, let the space between the bones of the feet release and expand. So the bones separate, expand away from each other. And then you get a nice reflexology treatment in the feet. And send the mind the other way. Let the floor massage the feet. And send your mind in divergent circles. Again, using the floor, using the ground. Send the mind the other way, converging circles. Notice the movement in the ankles, knees, all joints of the hips. And again, we'll come up, again, not using the lower back, but we're going to exaggerate how we're going to come up so we get a nice spinal wave. I'm going to push my knees forward and my hips and roll up my spine. And we can do that a few more times to work the spinal wave. Try to really articulate one vertebrae at a time. And then you'll get a really nice massage of the muscles along the spine and a nice releasing, opening action in the vertebrae. So starting from the bottom, tailbones pulled through, slowly propagating up the spine. Good, and rolling the shoulders alternatingly. Notice what that does for the spine. And if you let that get bigger and bigger, eventually you'll be touching every joint in the body. So notice what this is doing, not only for the spine, hip joints, knees, ankles, and again, even the feet. Send the mind the other way. Body is just a vessel. The body is just a sail being moved by the current of your intention. Release the abdomen. Now we did some spine waves this way. You can go this way too. Make sure your knees are nicely bent. Same action, the tailbone goes first, as if someone has lassoed your tailbone with the rope, pulling it, but now it's to the side. So everything else stays where it is until it's forcefully pulled. So again, make sure your knees are bent, lower back is virtually straight and flat. So tailbone goes out, slowly rolling up the spine till eventually gets to the top of the head, and then the tailbone is pulled the other way. You might need a little wider base for that if your feet are really close. Releasing the abdomen. Nice, good, full, long out breaths. Bottom, tailbone first, rolling up very slowly, very gradually. Okay, the chin, draw a circle in front, bigger and bigger circle. Releasing the rest of the body. Notice a tendency for things to tighten up when you do something as simple as this. Notice what happens in the body, where it happens. Developing your awareness in your body. And back to straight. And start the other way, small, gradually getting bigger. Staying within the comfort zone. Explore the comfort zone, so getting bigger and bigger. Good. And a little turn over the shoulder. And chin down and rolling the chin along the front of the chest, breathing the whole time. Notice the tendency to tighten the breath when you do this. Back center. I'm just turning sideways so that you can see it to forward stance. You can stay the same way. And we're going to do one arm circle. It's coming just from the weight shift or the hip turn. Arm is just dangling. Arm is just dangling, just with gravity. So at first, the arm is just swinging forward and back before we do a full circle with the arm. But again, try not to be doing that with the arm. The arm is just this. Just agreeing with gravity, letting gravity completely take it. So you're using your foot to press down, using your foot to press down, shift your weight. And then if you give more weight shift, pressing down even more, make more momentum, more energy for a full turn. And then just time the weight shift, time the pressing into the floor, that you're not using any arm work at all. No arm muscle. So if I were to stop my physical movement, my arm would just, it wouldn't take a while to get there. I'm not bringing my arm down. Wherever the arm is, it just drops. But that's how I'm doing nothing with the arm. Breathe in the belly. And then let gravity take it completely. So you stop the weight shift and be with the process of gravity, slowly, naturally taking the arm to vertical stillness. Become finally aware, very acutely aware of just a very, very pin size, pin width, sharp vertical axis going right through your arm, right through the middle finger, right to the tip of the middle finger, the vertical axis of the arm being pulled naturally and completely vertically by gravity. The same side, and on the other side. Or you can simply switch your feet. All I'm doing is pressing down, send me back, pressing down, send me forward. Arm is just hanging. It'll start to move, because that's physics. Each time, releasing the shoulder joint more and more. Release the abdomen. My weight is just falling. I'm vertical, hanging out, and just falling. And it's the floor that's pushing me. Keep your open shape and structure. So the ground force can move cleanly, more and more efficiently through your body. And if I time it, I press a bit more, accessing more floor, more ground, time it, I can get a full circle. That should be nothing in the arm. Arm is just hanging. And then choosing to let gravity completely take the arm. So we stop our movement, let that fine, sharp vertical axis work right through the center of the arm, to the center of the middle finger, right down to the ground. And then again, and then send the circle the other way. Exploring, developing relaxation, alignment with gravity, using ground force, using the ground, not my muscle. Choosing to completely connect with gravity and be with the process of the arm naturally being pulled to perfect vertical stillness. Feel the weight underside that's naturally triggered by this work. Horse stance, shift the weight, turn the hips, completely releasing those shoulder joints. Hang the tailbone. Winding down. Closer. Now we're not going to shift the weight side to side or forward and back because we're not in a forward stance, on a light horse stance. But we are going to still be pressing into the ground. Now with both feet equally to generate arms swinging this way. Arms are just doing this. But through intentional vectors, I can get a swing. And I time it and use the ground. And so don't increase the swing with your arms. Just connect to rhythm, timing, ground force to get that swing bigger and bigger. See how much you can let go of those arms and shoulders. And then with more pressing to the ground, perhaps get a full circle. The arms are doing nothing but this, just hanging. Send the circles the other way with your intentional vector. Lift the shoulders and scapula release. And just gravity. Shaking. Let that rock your heels. It's going reverberating through your entire body. That unifies and relaxes your body. On a long out breath through your mouth, we drop 3 times. Straight up, straight down. You're not throwing your arms, just letting gravity take it. Breathe in through the nose, long breath in, long breath out. Okay. E.E. Left leg forward. Let's actually do just a forward stance first. So that is a Hami no Kamai. Weight slightly forward, 60% or so. Roll the elbows forward, pull the shoulders down. And switch on me. Your mind with your body is just a sail. Your intentional vector, swoop through your body, sweeping your body around. Switch. You're not trying to get one hand behind the other. That's too collapsed. But there is this arrow-like, diamond-like, triangle shape. Ear meat entering in. So the vectors of my fingertips are crossing out in front of me. So notice any part where you're coming up away from the ground, stay connected to the ground. Another way of putting that is your hips are hanging, and even when you're switching your feet, they're still hanging. It's like a bell or something that's hanging, or a pendulum. Your hips are that pendulum just hanging. That'll bend your knees more. That's good. And a pendulum hangs. The pendulum can't come up. So your hips are always hanging. So your feet are just moving freely underneath your hips. Your hips are always heavy and hanging. Your feet are light and free to move. Let's pause for a moment and talk about that. So a lot of times we talk about grounding. Sometimes we even talk about rooting, and in Tai Chi, that's a huge aspect that we work on and talk about very overtly, developing your root. And literally you can imagine 3 roots from your legs going into the ground, dozens of feet down into the ground. And that's good to work for energetically anchoring, connecting, becoming physically stable, solid. That's important to work on. But that's a very isolated drill, very isolated exercise and focus. Eventually, you want to add to that, move on from that, because you might be nicely rooted and solid, but then not so mobile. You can be kind of stuck in the mud. So that's creating a certain aspect, certain quality that we need to develop. But it's an example that we don't stay there. And we add other things, yin and yang. Okay, so I might be very anchored, very solid, but it's time to move, and I've glued myself. I've done some good work, but I maybe don't have the yin and the yang. I'm stuck. So how you bring that together is the hips are always hanging, or your weight is falling freely. Free fall. Your weight is free falling through your legs all the time, but they don't stop at the feet. They continue falling. The weight free falls through your hollow legs and feet. So your feet and legs themselves are very light. So let's work on that. Don't worry about your arms right now. We're going to switch stance, but it's just going to be the legs. If you're hanging out, your spine is long, your hips are always hanging like a pendulum or this heavy, heavy bell. It's a heavy bell hanging from a chain. The chain, of course, is your spine. So your hips is a heavy bell or pendulum. This is always hanging with gravity, completely 100% with gravity. I'm not holding it up at all, but my feet are free to move underneath that. So move nicely, swiftly. And if your hips are always falling, you won't bob up and down. We don't want to bob up and down. It's pulling up, separating from the earth, getting tight, uptight, raising center of gravity, discombobulated. So we're grounded but mobile. We're grounded because the weight is always sinking. In fact, the weight is free falling. Weight is underside and always going more underside. Always going more underside, free falling. So we're grounded. But the feet underneath are totally free to move. So free falling weight has nothing to do at all with caging the feet. And notice how relaxed the arms are. And there's no separating, bobbing up and down because you're always free falling. The weight's completely freely sinking. The hips are always hanging. So very light, very free. Change the angles a little bit. You should be completely free to move your feet. Notice when your lower back curtails and curves a bit, you shorten those muscles. That's where you get caught. So you want this to hang and lengthen and completely fall. So that's going to take a while for most people because they might think that they're hanging out, but this is still trapped and tight. Your hips might be kind of hanging a little bit, but they're hanging in a bad position. They're kinked. It's like having, you ever had a little chain, whether it be, it's usually like a necklace chain, a light chain, and it gets kinked. And you have to kind of try to shake it because there's a couple of links, 2 or 3 links that are kinked. And so it's up like that. And you shake it out until it's long again and open. Well, that kinked links of chain, that's what people have here. So I'm here trying to hang out, but those links are kinked. They're now kinked. So I won't get a vertical hanging. There's no vertical hanging there. Even though I'm hanging out, it's not vertically hanging because these are kinked. I've got to have the lower back long and straight. Now another reason why that doesn't happen is people don't have the strength in the legs. So they spread out the work of standing and moving throughout the rest of their body. So they don't have the strength in their platform to truly take the weight. So everything else has to compensate for that. You're never free. So let this be long and open. And the feet are very, very light. They're not trapped. It's a free fall through your hips. Lengthen this area. Okay. Got that? Okay, now take that into a bit more shape and structure in our Hami no Kamai. But again, don't mistake shape with tension. So now that we're going to go into a Hami no Kamai ready stance, watch out for, okay, tension ensues everywhere. The only reason we have this is because your intentional current create the shape through your body. There's no sense of, okay, now I'm ready. Mental tightness, physical tightness. It's just your intentional flow, intentional current that makes your shape. So be just as relaxed and loose, just as relaxed and loose as we're doing these, just as relaxed and loose, but your intentional current is creating this shape. Now, when you switch stance, see if you can be totally free in those feet. And try to really notice if you're bobbing up and down. If you're bobbing up and down, that's tension and tight and weight upper side and muscular action to do the change. Hang with gravity, let gravity free fall the weight. Your intentional current keeps the arms out there. Your intentional current swivels you around your fine vertical axis. And then move a little bit in slightly different angles, maybe sometimes a bit more forward, sometimes a bit more back, offline. So you have shape, clarity, but you're not stuck and locked or glued to the ground. You're free, you're mobile, light of foot, fleet of foot, but you're also integrated, aligned, anchored, and grounded. All those qualities, yin and yang. Okay, any questions or how did you do with that? Okay. Of course, we want that in everything we do. Everything we do. Okay, let's go on to a little bit of basic footwork and movement and try to keep that quality in mind. So, Sugiyashi, front foot turn. Here we go. Each. Are you still as anchored yet light, grounded yet open and light? Knee. You have shape not because of muscular tension, but because of intentional flow. A clear, unobstructed, intentional current. That's why you have shape. Stop. Sheep. Oh. Okay, Migi Hanmi. Hang out, weight slightly forward, intentional flow. Each. Feet are light and free. Knee. Hips are hanging, but your feet are free. Stop. Sheep. Oh. Okay, so a little bit from 7th Q program. So Minuchi, Hapo Undo. We'll start with 4 directions, Shiho Undo, and then finish with the 8 directions. So we're gonna have Tenkai as we do Minuchi. So forward, Tenkai to the rear, step with the right foot, Tenkai to the left. Again, large open arc, not coming up, using the muscles. I'm flowing out on the way up, flowing out on the way down. Each millimeter of movement just opens my shoulder joint more and more flowing out, hips always hanging. So that's forward 1, to the rear 2, to the right 3, to the left 4. Irimi Tenkan. So Minuchi, Tenkai, pivot. Minuchi, step to the right. Minuchi, Tenkai, pivot to the left. Irimi Tenkan. Okay, now we're going to do the 8 direction. To the rear, to the right, pivot to the left. Right foot step to the back corner. Tenkai or pivot to the left. Front corner, step with the right foot, other front corner, pivot to the left, back corner, back to the front with the right foot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so yeah, Marlene just do maybe just a couple of those directions. This is a little bit later on. So you might just do the first part and maybe catch the last part, or work on the first little bit that you can remember. Okay, so for Milad and Cheryl, you really want to incorporate those qualities we worked on today, where the weight is always falling. Again, tendency is to lean Fire these muscles. Tendency is to use the deltoids, move the arms. That's completely out of the picture as best as you can. So I'm just pushing off the ground. So it's no different than these warm-ups, but intentional vectors, intentional current makes a bit more shape. Notice when you lose it, and I turn and keep it. Hips are always free falling, but the feet are available. You only have verticalness. Physically, you only have verticalness. Shape is vertical physically. Intentionally, energetically, you're flowing outward, but not physically. There's a nice big shape, nice big arc, because the arms are literally pulled open by your strong outward flow. But your upper body, spine, it's a dangling chain. Okay, so that's 1, 2, bend those knees, 3, 4, the back corner, pivot to the left, the front corner, step to the right, front corner, pivot to the left, back corner, step to the front again with the right foot. Each, knee, sant, chi, ho, roke, each, touch. Okay, just a moment. Again, try to notice when you lose things. For example, when you step, maybe when you step, there is a lurching. So as I go into number 5, there's 4, maybe there's a lurching when you step. Maybe every time you step, there is a pulling in, and pulling up, and a lurching. So continue to hang and sink even as you step. Not a lurching. That's normal, right? So notice when you're stepping, if you're losing those things, continue to hang. Okay, so each, knee, sant, chi, ho, rope, each, touch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and do a couple rotations on your own. Okay, that looks quite good. That looks very, very good, actually. Okay. So let's work on Tokyo window, Sayuendo. 1, 2. Tokyo window, Sayuendo, hip, hip. Now remember when you go into that hip, there's going to be tendency to lean and throw your upper body around. It's down here. Now the vertical axis is not here, it's here. Down, down, down. So every time you turn the hip, you're just anchoring, you're getting solid, not lurching. So kokyu-ho, sink, sink. Kokyu-ho, sink, sink. So work on the vertical falling, vertically falling freely, the free fall through your vertical shape. Hips continue to fall, and the feet are light and mobile. So same qualities we worked on today. The feet are completely free and mobile as the hips continue to fall. And that allows your shoulder joints and your arms to be open and long because you're not flexing and contracting. You're open, free, naturally free flowing, down and out. Okay, it looks nice and open. Very good. Let's take that into Misogi. Free fall through the hips. Expand out from your center. Settle back to your center. Send the mind out, let the body respond. Bring the mind back to home base, let the body respond. Open, expansive, settling back. Okay, let's bow out. Domo arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much. See you next time.